I didn't see you there.
Editing Zora here. While I was recording this video, I had a really bad headache, so if I'm quiet or subdued, that's why. Just wanted to let y'all know. Love you, okay, bye.
Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Zora, and I make movie and TV show commentary videos every single week. Last week, I made a video on the pilot episode of Arrow, and I did say that I will be sticking with the DC Comics theme. So this week, I will be talking about Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I'm so excited to talk about it. When I tell you I'm in love with this movie, I'm in love. So don't forget to like, subscribe, comment down below any suggestions for future content you would like to see from me, and turn on my post notifications so you don't miss a video. So let's get into it. So the original Justice League movie came out in 2017 and it was directed by Zack Snyder, but because of like a lot of reasons, I'll link an article down below that I read about it because it was really interesting and actually really heartbreaking. So Zack Snyder ended up stepping away from completing the original movie, and it ended up being a completely different product that came out because of another director in the studio and all that stuff. Read the article and it's super interesting. But when I saw it, I saw it in theaters. Like, we all know that I'm the biggest DC Comics fan, if you couldn't tell. But when I saw it, I didn't necessarily think it was like the worst movie ever. Like, I feel like I'm a lot more lenient when it comes to DC Comics movies because I think a lot of people judge them more harshly than they would other franchises, so I'm always just like very like protective over them. But I didn't necessarily hate it, but I was really excited to see that Snyder was gonna release his cut of the movie, and I was waiting for so long to see this, and it came out a day after my birthday, so it was like the best birthday present ever, and I absolutely loved it. So let me set the scene for you. So BVS ended with Superman being killed, and going into this movie, Batman is trying to like assemble a team because there's like a greater threat coming. And so that's where we're launched into the story, and it's like the grieving of Superman and then being introduced to this new team. So let's get into all like my main talking points of how much I love this movie, because I genuinely am in love with this movie. So let me get into the quality of this movie, because that's like my first like main talking point for how much I love it. So it was literally 20 minutes in, and I feel like that's like been the main marker for a lot of people when they've been talking about this movie, is that like at this moment, like straight out the gate, I was like, this movie is astronomically better than the one that came out in 2017. Like, just like the tone of it felt so much more consistent. The filmmaking was just overall so much better. Like, there were moments that felt like it was taken straight out of a comic book. One of the moments that really felt like it was taken out of a comic book for me was the moment when Barry is like saving Iris in the car crash. Like, it just looked like it was taken straight off of a comic book page. There were also moments in the big fight scene in part 6 that felt like it was taken out of a Justice League animated movie. Like, I don't know what it was about it, but it just felt like it was just like plucked out of one of the animated movies and brought into live action, and I loved that because I love the DC animated movies. Like, the DC animated movies and TV shows are all so good. So to have that same kind of like feeling I get when I watch the animated movies while watching this live action was just so good. I know a lot of people were like kind of apprehensive about the fact that this movie is 4 hours long, but once you start watching it, you will completely understand why it's 4 hours, because of all the like characters they had to introduce. Because prior to this movie, the only like superheroes we were really introduced to in this new cinematic universe was Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. So we had to really bring in Aquaman, Cyborg, and the Flash, and so we spent a lot of time with especially the Cyborg and the Flash. So it made a lot more sense for the runtime to be that long. And also the world building, which I'll get into later, makes a lot more sense with this extended time slot, because they were able to do so much in this 4 hours. And so it doesn't even come across as being like, or at least for me, it doesn't come across as being like, okay, this is dragging on. The only part of the movie where I was kind of like, okay, this is kind of getting a little slow, was going into part 4, but that was kind of like the halfway mark. So Other than that, I don't really have a problem with the length. Also have different parts, and so there are 6 parts to the movie, and they're like very clearly indicated. So you can literally just like, if you want to stop at like part 3 and only watch the first 3 parts one night, and then the last 3 parts plus the epilogue the next night, then you can do that. And that's kind of how I did it. I split it across 2 nights, so it works really well with being split into parts. This movie is also beautifully shot, and you can tell that the tone is just so much clearer. Like, I think some of my favorite scenes are in the fight scenes, which is like very rare because like sometimes fight scenes are very hit or miss. I also really love just seeing Themyscira whenever we do see it, and it doesn't even matter the movie. I just love seeing Themyscira, so it was really good to see them like straight out of the gate in part 1. Now let's get into my next point. The stars of the show. Yup, the stars of the show were Cyborg, Aquaman, and the Flash. Like, they were really the stars of the movie, and they carried. Like, okay, I'm gonna talk about Aquaman first because he's a star, but he's not like the main event like Cyborg and Flash. So Aquaman didn't get as much shine as Cyborg and Flash in this movie, but that's honestly okay because he does already have his solo movie, so we don't necessarily need to see him shine as much in this movie. But I really, really, really loved seeing the way Cyborg and Aquaman's friendship kind of developed, and then Aquaman and Flash's friendship developed. Like, all 3 of them are just besties. They're the dynamic trio. I love seeing them interact, and I love how like for years and years and years people have been clowning Aquaman because like in other forms of media he's kind of just been there, and you know, like talking to animals and stuff isn't necessarily the most useful in every single battle. So like Warner Brothers and Snyder were just like, you know what, let's make Aquaman hot and funny. And I love that. Like, Jason Momoa is so fine. Like, these 3 like actors are so fine. Like, I'm a simple woman. I'm sorry. I think Jason Momoa does really well in this role. I think he's so funny and so charming, and so I just love seeing him and seeing how he interacts with his other besties. Let's move on to the Flash. Ezra Miller's Flash is just so fun, and like we all know that I'm like a big fan of like the DC TV universe, and so, you know, I love Grant Gustin's Flash, but I really do like Ezra Miller's Flash as well. And then I think it was Crisis on Infinite Earths, one of those multiverse events on DC TV, and we see Grant Gustin's Flash interact with Ezra Miller's Flash, and oh my gosh, it blew my mind, and I love it so much. But let me get back to the actual movie because I could go off on a tangent. Like, I really do love the Flash. I love how, because of Candace Patton on the TV show, all irises are black now. Like, I love that for her. I love that for Iris. I really like the details when it comes to speedsters, like when we see DC speedsters in the Speed Force, and I also really liked in I think it was X-Men First Class when we see the no, it wasn't First Class, X-Men Days of Future Past, one of them, where we see Quicksilver kind of moving through time in slow-mo and stuff like that. And I really like those sequences because you get to see a lot of like character, and I really liked how they incorporated when Barry started running, his shoes like disintegrated. Like, I think that's such a minor detail, but I really like that because it's like attention to detail. I really like that. I always really love characters that are quirky. Like, I really just like Barry. I like that he's a nerd. I love that he kind of doesn't like think before he speaks. He kind of just like says things. I love that, and I love like the youth and the light that the Flash brings into this movie, because, you know, like Batman's brooding and Wonder Woman's kind of serious, and everyone else is really trying to be like, yeah, we're gonna save the world, and the Flash is just like happy to be there. Like, I really like that. And we got to see Barry in the Speed Force in the later parts, and you know that like speedsters always love to mess up the timeline, and that's one of the things that like really stresses me out when I watch things that involve the Flash, because time travel sometimes really makes me annoyed because, you know, there's always these repercussions, and like speedsters don't be thinking before they do that and go and mess with the timeline. But I was actually really excited to see Barry in the Speed Force in this movie. And then I really like the fact that he only time traveled back a few minutes, because you know that there are a lot of big implications and he could have changed the whole entire timeline. So I'm glad it was only a fraction of the time, because I was not ready for that kind of pain or despair to see him mess up this whole entire movie. I really like seeing the Flash interact with all these other people and kind of like bring out like a levity to them as well, and just like seeing him interact with like his bestie Cyborg and Aquaman. I just love that. And seeing Barry in this movie made me really excited to see the Flash movie that's supposed to be coming out in a couple of years. I think they're supposed to start filming later this year, but I don't know. I'm just really excited to see it. I really like Ezra Miller in this character. I just do. Now, let's talk about the actual star of the movie, Cyborg. Victor Stone is a star, and it makes me really like sad to think about the fact that like he was done so dirty in the 2017 movie that came out, because he was barely in it. We got none of his story, because like he was introduced in that movie, so of course we had to get information about him in that movie, or else we wouldn't even care about his character. So to see him actually get a fully fleshed out backstory and storyline in this movie was just so good. And I love seeing Black superheroes, so to see him there was just so good. And I loved seeing the elements of his backstory, and I'm a sucker for a good football scene, so I really liked the scene where, you know, he wins the game and all that stuff. But then, you know, we get introduced to pain and despair, and then he gets into the car accident with his mom. And one of the most like heartbreaking elements of that scene was because we got to see how Victor lost his arm, because he had put his arm out to try to save his mom, and that was the arm that ended up like getting amputated. Every time I saw Victor's dad, I kept calling him Papa Pope, like in my head, because I really like Scandal, so like I kept thinking of that actor as Papa Pope. That's kind of like irrelevant, but like I kept thinking of him as Papa Pope. But like I love that actor, Joe Morton. Oh, I love him. One of the things I really liked about how they did Cyborg was we got to see the inner workings of his mind and how he connects with technology, and it was kind of like another world in and of itself, of how he like interacted with the mother boxes in his own mind. And when he got to connect, and we got to see how he was like, I'm not broken, you know, this is all like trying to distract me, when the mother boxes were trying to get him to stop messing with them, and he was like, I'm not broken. And I love that, because he's not broken. In other like medias that use Cyborg, they usually like group him with the Teen Titans, and I actually really like seeing him run with like an older crowd with the Justice League, because of course I love seeing him with like people his age, but I really do like seeing him getting his shine with the Justice League, because he can keep up with them. And you know, they would have died without him. Like, he was the star of this movie. He is the only reason that they were even minutely successful. So we need to give Cyborg his flowers, and I'm glad that this movie actually gave him his flowers, because that 27 depiction of him was just not it. I know that the actor who plays Cyborg / Victor has had like negative experiences working with this studio, but I really hope that if Zack Snyder comes back to do more DC movies, that he comes back as well and we get a Cyborg movie, because I really like how Zack Snyder like paid attention to Victor's story in this movie. And so I would really like to see him have more movies. So let's move on to the next element, which is the gang, the Justice League. So this is where I'm going to talk about like the other characters of the Justice League, because you know, the besties really stole the show from me. But I actually really liked seeing Ben Affleck's Batman in this movie, because we got to see a lot more of Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne. And I think one of the like the best indicators of a good Batman is how good the actor is at playing Bruce Wayne. And so I really liked the kind of I don't know if I would call it charm, but like the personality of Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne and how he interacted with Alfred, because he was kind of still like, you know, he had like a I guess you really could say charm to him, and I really liked that. And I liked seeing more of that, because we really didn't get to see it, because we haven't gotten a Ben Affleck solo movie, and we're not getting that anymore. So I think this worked really well for him. I also think it's really funny how in this movie Bruce Wayne / Batman knew to stay in his own tax bracket, because in those big fight scenes, he was nowhere to be seen. He was doing some other side task because I love Batman, but he cannot compete where he does not compare. He is not going to fight parademons and Steppenwolf and Darkseid by himself. Like he can't handle that, and it's okay. Like he knew his strengths, and he knew his strengths were not going to be fighting metahuman supernatural beings, like, and that's okay. So the next character I'm going to talk about in the gang is Wonder Woman, and I love Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is one of my favorite comic book characters of all time, and in this movie she really kind of took like a back seat, and I think that's okay because she has her own solo movie. Like we don't need to spend so much time focusing on Wonder Woman in this movie, and it allowed more time for other characters to shine, so I think that's okay. The Wonder Woman like theme always gets me hype. It gets me going. I love it so much. I love how people pointed out that it sounds like the Spy Kids theme. I think that's so funny because it does kind of sound like it, but it always just like gets me going. And then that like fight scene in the was it a bank? I think it was a bank where she like saved all those people. It was also much darker in this movie than it was in the 2017 one. And like when I first watched it, I was like, oh, are people actually gonna die? And then, you know, she like killed that guy. Like she actually like killed that guy. So that was like when I first realized that the tone in this movie is going to be much different than the other like happy, lighter superhero movies we're kind of used to in other platforms. Steppenwolf would not let Wonder Woman breathe in those fight scenes. Like he did not want to fight anyone else besides Wonder Woman. Like he only wanted to smoke with her. And I was like, other people were trying to come in and fight Steppenwolf, but he's like, no, I want Diana. I want to fight the last warrior of Themyscira. She is the only person I want to fight. And I was like, I don't know if he really wanted to smoke because Wonder Woman can actually fight. And so that's one of my main problems is that like everyone always tries to act like Wonder Woman can't fight, or like Wonder Woman is not the most powerful. Like if we're gonna keep it a buck, I know that Wonder Woman can beat Superman in a fight because yeah, Superman's overpowered, but Superman don't got hands. He doesn't know how to actually fight, you know? He can just use his powers and whatnot. But Wonder Woman can actually fight, and she's a god. Like she is beating Superman in a fight. So I don't like how they were trying to like act like Wonder Woman is like getting like knocked when Superman first came back to life. Like I don't like that. Like we all know that Wonder Woman could actually take Superman in a fight, so I don't know why they were trying to play her, but I digress. I don't have much to say about Superman / Clark Kent in this movie. Just the fact that we didn't have to see that horrible CGI mustache removal in this movie, so I greatly appreciated it. That is one of the only things I remember about the 2017 movie, so I'm happy that it's gone. When I was watching this movie, it actually kind of made me want to go back and rewatch Man of Steel, which is saying a lot because I don't really like Superman like that. He's not my favorite by far. I don't really like him. I don't like watching his movies, but it actually made me want to go back and watch it because I actually kind of like Henry Cavill as Superman. So I actually really enjoyed it. I don't have much of an opinion, but he was good. He was cute. He was there. They had us wait until the last part of the movie to see the squad shot, and I was just waiting to see it. I was just waiting to see them all together in a line, you know, like the usual standard like superhero, even supervillain sometimes, squad shot, and I was just waiting, and I loved seeing it. And we got to see who was it, Cyborg and Flash just like be friends. Oh my gosh, I think I made it abundantly clear in this video that I love their friendship. So seeing that just made my little nerd heart happy. So my next point is going to be the stakes. This movie had so much more weight to it. Like all the conflict and all the elements just felt so much more lived in, and also felt like it had so much more weight on the overall plot and overall well-being of the world that they're in. Like when we saw the battle scene in Themyscira, and we see the whole like kind of arena where all the warriors are fighting, we see that topple over, and so all those warriors are dead, and it held so much weight because we know that the warriors in Themyscira, like their whole purpose is to protect mankind and to like keep peace and stuff. And so to see them sacrifice themselves against Steppenwolf to protect the mother box, just like it broke my heart but not as much as it would have had it been like a character we were supposed to be like really invested in. But it also just like really set in stone that like, okay, this is like a huge problem that's going on, and like it was straight out of the gate. So like Zack Snyder did a really good job of establishing the circumstances, the stakes right out the gate. Lois Lane really had a smaller part to play in this movie, but I think seeing her journey with mourning, as well as seeing how Clark's mother mourned, as well as, you know, we see the world mourning Superman as like a symbol and also a hero. And so we got to really see the implications of him being dead, as well as the implications of having to bring him back to life. And we saw like the members of the Justice League kind of like have fights about that, but seeing those implications and having it like be realized that, yeah, it's kind of really messed up that they like grave robbed him and brought him back to life against his will because they needed him. Although, you know, Wonder Woman could have done it. You know, Wonder Woman is very strong. I don't know why they try to play her, but you know, they did need Superman, whatever. So it just had a lot more weight to it. And I really appreciated that because it really just like, it made the like resurrection scene and like the fight after it have a lot more meaning, especially like for me as an audience member. I also really like in this movie that the fight scenes kind of had more of the question of, oh, are they actually gonna win or not? Because in superhero movies, we all kind of know that they're going to end up triumphant in the end. So it's kind of hard to like even put it out there that there's a possibility that they're gonna lose. But there were moments in like part 5 and part 6 where I was texting my friend and I was like, this is not looking good. Are they actually gonna lose? Because, you know, I don't put it past Zack Snyder to actually have them lose. So I was a little worried that they were not gonna get out of there alive, but they did, as they should have. So the next thing I love about this movie is the world building aspect of it, as well as kind of like the big bad, because the world building really is one of the best aspects of this movie. There were so many more explanations and everything made a lot more sense. I really liked how they had Steppenwolf not be the overarching big bad in this movie, and we see that he's really just a pawn for Darkseid. And I love that we got to see Darkseid and he had like a much bigger presence in this movie. I can't remember if he was in this 2017 one. I did not go back to watch the 2017 one before filming this video because I'm not gonna do that because we have a better movie. And it also just works so well that Steppenwolf isn't the biggest bad, because 9 times out of 10 with superheroes, there's always a bigger bad at play. So I really liked how they incorporated that in this movie. I also loved the Easter egg aspect of this movie. Like, when superhero movies really lean into the Easter eggs they put in there, it's always just such an enjoyable experience for comic book lovers and people who just love these characters in general. So to see all these Easter eggs was just so fun. When I tell you, when I saw that man who was talking to Lois turn into Martian Manhunter, I screamed. I was so excited. I love Martian Manhunter. So to see him be introduced in this movie and have the possibility of seeing him more in future movies was just so exciting, because we haven't seen much of Martian Manhunter like ever. I know he's in the Supergirl show, but I'm not going to watch that show. I'm sorry. But seeing him in this movie was just so fun. I also really liked seeing the Lanterns kind of sprinkled throughout this story. Like, we got to see the Lanterns fight alongside the Atlanteans, the Themyscirians, humans, the gods, all of them against Steppenwolf and the parademons. And this is a tangent, but I love a really nicely done fight scene. And so I really liked that one. I also really liked the moment that they actually showed in the 2017 version, but I also really like that it's still in the expanded version, where the Flash kind of like tips Wonder Woman's sword to her when they first fight Steppenwolf. I really like that moment, so I liked seeing that again. And so I think this movie has really nicely done fight scenes, especially because superhero movies really do lean into the action elements of it. And so to see it done well is really nice. The last thing I loved about this movie was the franchise building and the potential for sequels in the future, because I really loved how they did the villain aspect of it, of having Steppenwolf be the pawn, because it reminded me of how in Young Justice there would be like a seasoned villain, but the seasoned villain would have something to do with the next season villain, and it would always be in servicing an overarching villain. And so I really like that there's a series feeling instead of it just being confined to one movie. And so it really opens the door to have future Justice League movies be connected to Darkseid. And so it already is laying the groundwork for potential sequels. So I really hope that Zack Snyder comes back to do more and that Warner Brothers isn't like butthurt about it, but I really want to see it. You can really see that Zack Snyder had a plan for an entire franchise. And so I really hope that he's able to do that and to show that, because the way that this movie was crafted with so many Easter eggs and so many characters just being kind of interwoven really helped create a whole broader scheme, and how they introduced the multiverse, which is one of the best elements of DC Comics, period. So to have that be introduced in this movie just opens the realm of possibilities to be completely endless. So they have so many different avenues that they could go if they do want to continue working with Zack Snyder, and if Zack Snyder does want to eventually come back. I kind of just want to touch on the epilogue a little bit in this part, because you know they have like their building of the Justice League headquarters and they say, but there's room for more. And so it makes me so excited, because we like, you know, the Justice League is huge. There are so many members of the Justice League, so they have so many different characters that they can bring into future movies, starting with Martian Manhunter, because at the end of the epilogue, you know, Martian Manhunter goes to Bruce Wayne and is like, I'm here to help. I feel really compelled to help you guys. So if you need me, I'm here. And he's like, you know, we gonna need more people. So in future movies, we might be able to see Martian Manhunter brought in. We can probably see the Lanterns brought in. I hope it's Jon Stewart's Lantern that gets brought in. That's just me, because you know, John Diggle on Arrow is kind of like the Green Lantern. So I want to see Jon Stewart more. When I was watching the epilogue and we got to see the Joker interact with Batman, and he hints at him killing Jason Todd, it made me want to see a Jason Todd, A Death in the Family movie so much. And I know it's really dark, but you know, the cinematic universe has been navigating a fairly dark turn. So I think that it could work really well, and I just really want to see it. I also kind of want to see a Killing Joke live action movie. I think that could be really good. So the possibilities are endless. They also brought in Deathstroke in the epilogue, and you know, I'm the biggest Arrow fan, so to see Deathstroke in this was just so exciting. And it made me so excited. I can't stop like smiling when I'm talking about this. It just made me so excited. So what do I want to see in future movies if we are fortunate enough to get some done by Zack Snyder? I want to see a Cyborg movie. First and foremost, I want to see the Cyborg movie, and I want Zack Snyder to do it, because clearly he's the only one that's been doing him justice. So that's what I want to see. I also am really excited to see the Flash movie that's coming out soon. I hope it like keeps a lot of the Flash's charm, and we get to see more of his relationship with Iris and his dad. And so I really am excited to see that. Another thing I want to see in future movies is I want to see Shazam and Zachary Levi brought into like the trio of besties, like the dynamic trio. I feel like Zachary Levi's Shazam would work really well in this group, and you know, then we could have like another younger character to be like friends with Cyborg as well, because you know, the younger version of Shazam is like a kid. So I think that could be really fun too, and it would also add like a lot more humor, because Zachary Levi is just so good and so funny. The inner nerd in me really wants to see Clark Kent and Barry Allen race. Like, I know that that's really tiny, but I just like, you know, an end credit scene or just like wrapping up the movie. I think it would be really funny, and I really just want to see it, just because the Flash is faster than Superman. I'm not arguing about that. The Flash is literally faster. So what are my general thoughts? This is the Justice League movie that we deserved. We should have gotten this movie in 2017. Like, had the stars aligned and everything worked out, this is the movie we should have gotten. And I can already tell that this is gonna be one of my favorite superhero movies. Like, I know I'm gonna rewatch it all the time, and I probably will rewatch it today after filming this, because I just love it so much. I love seeing DC come out the gate with some really good movies, and like, I feel vindicated, because I was saying for the longest time that Zack Snyder's cut of the Justice League is going to be incredible. And people were like, Zora, you don't know that. You know, DC has let people down in the past. And I was like, no, this movie is going to be incredible. And y'all are going to eat your words when you watch it and you find out it's incredible. And what was I? Right. So y'all just need to listen to me when I talk about movies, because I'm 9 times out of 10 right. But the one thing that I didn't like about it was at times the CGI was kind of a little jarring. And like, I don't know how to explain it, but it was almost kind of like too clear. And you know, like I have really bad eyesight, so to have like my bad eyes see very like clear, like HD CGI is sometimes very like jarring for my eyes. So that was kind of a little for me. But that wasn't all the time, and you know, it's a superhero movie. None of this is realistic, so I can't really be mad at the CGI because like none of this is really based in reality. I also kind of have this like iffy relationship about slow-mo. I feel like this movie used slow-mo a lot better than it did in Wonder Woman's solo movie. I love that movie, by the way, but I feel like sometimes the slow-mo was too extended. But I really liked how this movie had like slow-mo into fast-paced motion really quickly, so it wasn't like we were spending too much time in slow-mo. But I know that a lot of people kind of aren't the biggest fan of slow-mo in these fight scenes, but I like it, so it's not the biggest like deal breaker for me. I love this movie. I think it's clear that I did. It makes my little comic book nerd heart happy, and I feel so good knowing I was right when I was telling people that it was going to be good. But it makes me feel like nostalgic for the things I loved in the animated movies and the animated TV shows and even the live action TV shows. And I think it's just so well done, and I think Zack Snyder really deserved to have been able to put this out straight out of the gate and not have to have the drama. And I wish that his personal circumstances would have aligned for him to have completed this in 2017, but you know, like things happen, and you know, tragedies do happen. So it all worked out in the end. We got to see this movie, and I hope that Zack Snyder is comfortable with coming back to work on more, and I hope that Warner Brothers doesn't hold a grudge and lets him do it. And that's all I really want, and that's all a superhero nerd could really ask for. Thank you guys so much for watching me talk about the Zack Snyder cut of the Justice League. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about the movie, and if you would like to see me talk about more superhero content. I would love to do it. I love superheroes. I always have, so to talk about on this channel kind of seems natural. So if you want to see more of that, just let me know. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on your post notifications so you get to see every video I post. In next week's video, I will be shifting gears and I will be talking about one of my favorite movie genres, which is love stories. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see you in the next one.